Okay, we're going to go over confidence intervals for the mean. And the very first thing here is that we're starting inferential statistics, which is a branch of statistics where we take our sample data and make predictions about the entire population. So here we're going to do confidence intervals for the mean, and the first thing is the term point estimate. Point estimate is your best guess for what you're looking for. For example, here we'd like to know the population mean, and our best guess for that is the sample mean. So that's what the point estimate means in this situation. In the next section, we want to do confidence intervals for the population proportion. So our best guess for that is the sample proportion. So it's your 1 point estimate for your population parameter that you're looking for. Okay, on this problem, we're going to get the confidence intervals for the air flight times from Atlanta to Chicago. And we have data right here. Now, unfortunately, this data is not easily copied and put into the Excel sheet. But on the Excel sheet, and I'll go ahead and go to that right now, and that is right here. I'm using the web version of the Excel sheet. This is when you get it, the Excel sheet, the ESP4 Excel sheet off of your My Open Math site. Then what you can do is upload it to your OneDrive space so that you can access the ESP4 sheet from your OneDrive area, because everybody has Excel on their email account. So that's the one I'm using, the free version of Excel for this video. If you have the desktop version, then use that version, because you'll see, for example, on this sheet, a copy button right here. But those buttons do not show up on the the online version of Excel. So I thought I'd show you what that looks like here. Well, anyway, that data for the air flight times that we're talking about on that problem here, on these air flight times, well, that's on your Excel sheet. The last sheet of your Excel sheet is called data. So if I go here, where the mouse is right here, and I click this arrow, I can go way far over to the end of all the sheets. And we're not going to use all these sheets in the class, but the very last sheet is called data. And this is a place that you can get to see all the data that's in the textbook. And one of the problems that we're dealing with right here is on air flight times. And if we look for the section we're on, we can find it. So let's see, air flight times right here is section 5.2, and here's our air flight data. So what I'm going to do is I could either click and drag over this data, so I get that data, or I can do click on the first data cell and do Control Shift down arrow, and it will get all that data. Okay, so that's all the data right there. And then we just do right mouse click and do copy. And then we go to our OneU sheet, so I'll just arrow back over to the OneU sheet, which is right here. And right here is where the raw data goes, where it says raw data. And if I click in this cell right here and do a right mouse click, well, I guess I'm going to have to do a paste. So let's see here. I think there's different paste options. Let's see. Let me see if I can find that here a second. And when I try to paste the data in, or actually when I try to just type in the cell, it wouldn't let me. And that's because up here in a yellow bar, it says, do you want to edit this workbook? So yes, I do. I'll click Edit Workbook and then Edit a Copy. And then it renames it. So that's fine. In fact, we can probably just leave the name what it is. Let's see if we can do that. And just say Replace Existing File. Let's see if that works. And here we go. And so now we should be able to type in the cells. Let's see. This is another thing about links. Like probably what they're referring to here is these buttons that you don't see. So we can just close that, because the online version of Excel doesn't allow it. If I type a number in here now, it does show up. So make sure you get rid of all those yellow bars and enable the links, enable the edit the workbook. So I don't think I'll be able to paste right this minute, because at this point I probably lost Well, I might be able to do it. So let's see if I do pace 1, 2, 3. There it is. There's your air flight times. Now, as soon as it put those in there was 35 air flight times, and it tells you the sample size right here. I counted up. It got the average air flight time of 101.77 minutes from Atlanta to Chicago, and here's the standard deviation. Now, if you're using the desktop version, there will be a copy button that copies these values that you click on, and it copies these values anywhere on the sheet that you would possibly need it. But what we have to do on the web version of Excel is highlight those data. I'm just using Control Shift down. I clicked here and I hit Control arrow down, and then I'll do right mouse click and copy that. And the place that we do confidence intervals is right down here. And you can see it's the same format. It goes your sample mean, sample standard deviation, and the sample size. And if you check our format that we have, it's the same format: sample mean, sample standard deviation, and sample size. So when I put these in here, they are in the right places that I need them to be. So right here, again, we want to do pace 1, 2, 3 all the time. And that puts those values in there. And now automatically, we have everything we want. First of all, we got our point estimate. The best guess for the average amount of time to fly from Atlanta to Chicago is 101.77 minutes. That's not the average of all flights. That's the average of those 35 flights. That's my sample mean, and my sample mean is my best guess for the population mean. Now, when I want to do an interval, you first have to pick a confidence level. The standard confidence levels are 90, 95, and 99%. But you can go higher than that if you want to by choosing these, or if you have an unusual confidence interval, such as a 92% confidence level or something like that, you can type it in. So you're also allowed to type the values into this cell. So always check what confidence level they tell you to use. If they don't give you a confidence level, the assumed confidence level is 95%. That's the one that is the default setting on all these, and that's what people mostly use as a 95% confidence interval. Now, to work out the confidence interval, it has to use a t-score, and the reason it's using a t-score is because we do not know the population standard deviation. We only know the sample standard deviation. So no matter if your sample size is large or small, if you don't know your population standard deviation and you only have a sample standard deviation, you have to use a t-score. So the t-score is 2.03. That would be a different value if we had this standard deviation down here in the population standard deviation. If this is a population standard deviation, it would use a z-score, and that value is 1.96. It's very close to the t-score, but because we're using Excel, we can get these values exact. Okay, so now it gets the standard error. And the formula for standard error is in your book, and what it is your standard deviation divided by the square root of your sample size. So if I do 6.6910, this number right here, divided by the square root of 35, I will get this number right here, 1.13. And then to get the margin of error, it takes your t-score times your standard error, and that gives you your margin of error. Now, to get this confidence interval right here, and this is the one we want, this is your confidence interval. To get this, it does your point estimate, and here's the formula for it. It does a point estimate plus or minus your margin of error. So our point estimate is the sample mean, and here's the formula for the margin of error. So it did your point estimate, your sample mean, which is 101.77. Then it adds on, and then it subtracts your margin of error. So it does 101.77 minus 2.3. If you do that, if you take 101.7714286 minus 2.3, you will get 99.473. And if you add it on, if you take your 101.77 and you add on your 2.3, you'll get 104.07. So that is my confidence interval right here. Now, what does it mean? It means I'm 95% sure that the average flight time of all flights, not the 35, but all flights going from Chicago to Atlanta, takes somewhere between 99.47 minutes to 104.07. Okay, I'm 100% sure that the average flight time of these 35 flights is 101 minutes, but I'm 95% sure that the average flight time for all the flights from Atlanta to Chicago is between these two values right here, between 99.47 minutes to 104.07 minutes. So that's how you do a confidence interval like this. And now if you wanted to do sample size determination, which is another topic in this video, in this section, then you put in your margin of error that you're getting it down to, your standard deviation, and it will calculate sample size needed. Like for example, on this problem, if I wanted to get this margin of error, which is right now 2.3 minutes, if I wanted to get that down to 1 minute, how many flights would I need to sample? Well, let's do that problem. I'm going to assume that we're still going to deal with a 95% confidence interval. The margin of error, let's say we want to get that down to 1 minute. And my standard deviation, I'm going to assume that this is what my standard deviation would be with my next sample. Now that's not necessarily true. If I sample more people, the standard deviation might change a little bit, but this is my best guess for the sample standard deviation. This is my estimate. So what I'm going to do is down here where it says standard deviation, I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to click on my sample standard deviation value. And when I hit enter, it's going to put that value in there very exact. So this tells me I need 172 flights to be sampled to get the margin of error down to 1 minute. Now, sometimes they say, how many more flights do you need to sample? Well, I already sampled 35 flights. If I need 172, then I need to subtract these to tell me how many more flights I need to sample. If you ever have a population size, you can put that in here, and that will reduce the sample size needed further. I'm going to go ahead and prove to you that this is the right answer by doing this problem, and you'll see your margin of error drops down to 1. So using this confidence level of 95%, here's my sample mean, my sample standard deviation, and now if I change the 35 sample size up to my sample size that it says that I need to get the margin of error down to 1, if I put that in there, 172, you'll see that my margin of error drops down to about 1. It's 1.01, and that could be just due to a little bit of round off error on that. But let's see, if I would have had 173, there it is, 1 exactly. So I think this gives a little bit of, it could be off by 1 on this due to maybe it was 172.2 people that you needed to sample, flights you need to sample. So I had to go up 1 higher to get it. But anyway, that's how you do sample size determination right there. So I'll stop this video right here.